Hey, welcome to Fix It for Josh's Sake. Today I'm over here at the sewing machine because I'm sewing up a really cool seat for a 1972 Arctic Cat Lynx. It's going to have this cool leopard print, and then I'm going to put some grabber green piping around it. It's going to look really great. The challenge I have is while the tension up here is setting really well, my tension down in the bobbin has started to get way too tight. It's pulling the thread all the way down underneath and causing it to loop on the back side. So come along with me as we fix that for Josh's sake. First off, I want to introduce you to my new little toy. Got a little singer here. Found it at a thrift shop for $5. Now, mind you, it was a little crusty. Needed oil in like all these little spots, and I mean literally there are 1,000 holes all over the place on these old singers. Takes a lot of moving parts. I mean, heck, we can even open this up and see all the moving parts in there. But if you do find yourself looking at a cool old sewing machine at a thrift shop, they put the model right up in here, sometimes down in the bottom in here. So this is a model 503A. And I would say that if you're looking for a sewing machine that can sew vinyl, there's a lot of different models, but if Singer has your attention, you probably want something like a 500 or maybe a 600 series or older, as in a 400 or a 300 in those numbers, because these are all aluminum, and the gears inside of here driving them are all steel gears. And a lot of them were direct drive, which helps a little bit too. And there's a lot of features and things to make them work pretty well. So that's my little spiel on how fun my little thrift shop find was. To get back on topic, here's the adjustment of the tension for what's the thread coming through the needle here. And then down here is the pocket where the bobbin sits. So that comes back like this, and the bobbin sits in here, and we can pull that out. Easier said than done. The idea is we got a notch here and we've got a notch there, and for me, doing it right-handed, if you can see it, is a lot easier than doing it left-handed. So you can pull it out of there like that. Here's the spool, here's the bobbin. From there, we want to get this plate up, so we got to go over here and we flip this deal up, and I'll kind of show you. I'm flipping it on my right hand, and it allows this plate to come up here on the left side, if you can see that. So flipping it like that allows it to go up and down like that. Okay, so it's all the way up. And then you got to play with your needle height and the feeder just a little bit, because you notice that those things go up and down. So I find that there's a middle spot there where the needle's not coming down into this plate, but it's allowing this lever to be down. So there's a sweet little spot in there where we can get that plate out, and that allows us to get to the next part we need to clean up. We're gonna go in here, and we got to take this little dealio here, and we got to pull it up and back. See, like that. Pulls up, pulls up. There's my big finger. Pulls up, and then to the right. And that allows this bobbin part to come out of there, okay? And there it is. Now, a lot of us are used to bobbins that hold the spool of thread, and we can actually like take the spool of thread and dangle it, and the bobbin stays with it. Well, these old singers don't do that. They have the bobbin separate like this, and we can't just hang them to adjust bobbin tension. So everything was sewing really nice for about half the seat, and then everything came to a screeching halt. And so I have a sneaky suspicion that down in here things are dirty, and that underneath this bobbin spring things are dirty. In fact, even as I open this up, I'm seeing some thread dust and stuff. You can kind of see little pieces coming off. So I'm gonna do a real nice clean on this, as well as show you how I set the tension on this Singer model 503A. Might be difficult to see, but there's a lot of lint and sewing stuff down in here, and I had this all clean before I started, but I've been kind of pushing it pretty hard as I'm sewing vinyl. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that's going to mess up tension and cause some drag and some problems. So yeah, let's get into this. First thing we're going to look for is we've got 2 screws right there. You can see those. I'll put them in the light here. And those 2 screws, the right one is the screw that holds the entire spring that puts the tension on the thread, and the one to the left is the one that creates the tension. So the right one's a holding screw, the left one is an adjustment screw to determine how tight or loose the spring is holding on the thread. For this next step, I grabbed some Q-tips, a nice little paintbrush, and a tack cloth. And I'm going to go down in here and try to work out as much of that stuff as I can so that we don't have any lint or debris or anything getting in the way of how the bobbin spins in there. So just kind of twirling it around here, and frankly I'm finding a lot of lint in there. So as I spin it around, you clean it up. Doesn't seem like it's possible, but man, you sure can get a lot of grime and gunk out of that little area down there, even though you just cleaned it before the start of the project. So I'm feeling successful already. Now I'm going to move on to cleaning this up. So that's all the dirt and grime that I was able to successfully get off of this bobbin, or out of the little spool the bobbin sits in down there. And I would imagine that's enough to cause some problems. But we're going to dig in deeper. Loosen these screws, get underneath this spring and clean it up in there, and then put it back together. You know, good deals come to people who are willing to provide proper maintenance to a neat old machine like this. When I got this, I pushed the button to make the needle go up and down, and the motor just goes, and it literally couldn't move. And so I started oiling all the parts in here and turning it over by hand, and sure enough, it loosened up, and now it just hums along, and it's beautiful. But I find myself asking why so many times as I work on old machines like this. Like, for example, got myself a nice little screwdriver here, and I was going to take out the main screw, and it is so tight that I will absolutely be using some penetrating oil to soak it for a little bit to get that screw. And then I thought, well, I'm curious how the screw here that adjusts the tension, how tight that is. And let me tell you, it was less than 1/8 of a turn to completely bottoming out. Now this should be at least a 1/2 a turn, if not even a little more, to, like, you know, 2/3 of a turn, something like that. And so I'm super surprised at how tight this was, and I'm realizing it's a real impressive fact that I was able to sew for quite a bit here and have good results. I'm looking forward to how well the stitch looks once I get this cleaned up and loosened up. Now you might be wondering what these other things sitting here are. Well, I got a magnet sitting here, and these work really well because you stick it to your screwdriver, and a rare earth magnet like this, it just actually makes everything stick. It creates the conductivity. So as I'm working on a ridiculously small screw like this, and I'm going to be threading it out, that screw is not going to go flying anywhere because it's going to stay connected right to the screwdriver because the magnet is creating a connection. Look at that. You see that just hanging out there? Pretty slick, huh? Now make sure you put that screw in a good spot. The larger headed screw is the screw that adjusts the tension. And then the screw that holds the spring in place is a smaller screw. And that's the one that I'm going to put a little penetrating oil on here and give it some love. Ooh, that's a lot. That's why we got a rag. And we'll kind of let that sit for a minute, and then I'll explain to you my next strategy. Let that soak in. These screwdrivers, man, they're so little. What is that, 3/8 of an inch around? My big old, you know, goober of a hand here has a hard time getting good leverage on that. So I went and grabbed a nice little vice grip. It's got the teeth in it there, you can see. And you don't need to like kill anything or crush the snot out of something here, but you get that set just right and get it to lock down into the grooves of the screwdriver. And now we've got perfect pressure, good control, and as I push down into that screw directly with more of a leverage, I have less of a chance of wearing out that slot or opening it up or anything from slipping, because I have full control on all sides as I work that out. So in a minute here, once this penetrating oil sets in there, I'll go ahead and give that a spin. Now hopefully your screw holding the spring in place is not as tight as this one is, but my strategy is always to use the surface that I'm working on, and so hopefully I can kind of show what I'm seeing here. The bottom of this bobbin case has a flat spot right there, and then it puts that screw, I can actually rotate it around so you can see it, puts that screw kind of off at a 45 there. So if I spin it around like this, and because I'm right-handed I need to come in like that, it allows me to push down real firmly into the table, as well as come into the screw with my screwdriver and spin it. And now I'm not like free-handing this, floating in the air like an astronaut, you know, with no gravity. Instead, everything works in my favor because I have a base to work off of. And once that breaks loose, because of so much leverage that that vice grip gives me, this comes off real easy. And as you see, the screwdriver is still magnetized because of that magnet that we just used. So I'm going to go ahead and set that over here, get that to come away. So I got my two screws there, you can see both of them. And then we'll take this spring and pull it away and see what we need to clean up under here. Well, that, my friend, sure is crusty. There's some real gunk under there, and we're going to go ahead and clean this out, get that stuff out of there, because, man, thread needs to move smooth and free and have no, like, interruptions in how it's being pulled through the bobbin. So I'm going to clean that up really good. And then I'm also looking at this spring. I'm wondering how this is doing. And, yeah, that dirt in there doesn't do us any favors. So we're getting this cleaned up real nice. As I'm looking in here, we've got a slot, and that's what we pull the thread down into, and it pops in there. And there seems to be some grime in there, so I went and got myself a toothpick to try to clean those holes out with. I might even see if I have a really thin piece of cloth to clean in this slot as well, so there's no abnormal obstruction getting in the way. Got myself a little piece of blue paper towel, like a little shop cloth, and just rubbing it in there. Doesn't look like much is coming out. I already scraped most of it out with the toothpick, but you know, while we're in here, we might as well do a really good job. Do a job that you can be proud of and you know is going to give you a good result. Okay, I'm going to grab my screws here and put this spring back on. Before I do that, I'm just going to rub my screwdriver a little bit here, help magnetize this so that it grabs on. I'm going to set it in the slot so it finds its home. That's going to sit right there. And then I'll set the spring where I want it, visualize it, lined up there. And I'm going to start this one. I'm not going to snug it, I'm going to start it. And we're going to go get this guy. And we'll put that one in the slot. And start this one. Okay, now they're both started. We're going to tighten the back one. Not as ridiculously tight as it was when I took it apart, but just enough so that I know it's not going to come loose when we're sewing in the future. So that's going down. Okay. Good, good. Nice and tight. Now this guy, we're going to zero, as in run it all the way down until it's tight. And then I'm going to back it off a half a turn. Give it a little more play than what we had when I took it apart. I know this is difficult. Let's see. Okay, there we go. There's all the way down. And so half a turn would be right there. All right, now I'll show you how I'm going to test this to be sure I have the right thread tension. For this next part, we'll put the bobbin in. Put the thread in the bobbin. So my thread's coming off the left side, counterclockwise. You see that? Okay. And then I'll put it into the bobbin, and there's a slot. And the slot is going up this way, which allows us to pull the thread in until it pops. And it sits down in the hole right there. You can see the hole that it's in. That's where it needs to be. That's its home right there, okay? Well, when that thread is being pulled through there and this spring is pressing against there, there's supposed to be 1 ounce of pressure on this pull. Well, how do we know what 1 ounce of pressure is? Well, I took myself a scale and started measuring the weight of some change I had laying around, and I figured out that if you take 5 quarters and 6 inches of Scotch tape here, and go ahead and fold over 1/4 inch at the end so that we can get that Scotch tape off later. Lay it down, take the thread and set it at the first 1/2 inch or so of the Scotch tape, and then take 1/4, press it down on top of it. Okay, following what I'm doing here, we're going to stack all these up and then carefully bring some tape around here. Hopefully do this in a way that doesn't have them all spilling all over the table here. And then we wrap it around, and now I'm going to create a little zigzag here and come around the other way so that none of the quarters can scoot out. Now they're all taped on all 4 sides. Okay, there we go. We have a 1 ounce weight, probably made out of something that everybody's got laying somewhere in a purse or a bowl or something. And that allows us to grab onto the bobbin like this. Keep your thumb over top of it because that will fall out. And if you see, it can hang there, right? Oh, maybe I'll come forward here so you can see this. It hangs there. But if I give it a little jerk, anytime I jerk a little bit, it starts to go down. In fact, I think I might tighten it just a little bit. Well, how do we do that so that we got ourselves a good test? Take your screwdriver, stick it in there, turn it clockwise, because if you remember, the yarn is coming out counterclockwise, so clockwise will tighten it up. So we're going to go ahead and get that tightened up. I'm going to double check and make sure that my yarn is in the actual slot. Okay, there it is. And then I am going to give this just one little squeak of a turn, maybe like a 1/16 of an inch, and give this another pull test. Okay, I just tightened it a little bit. I mean like a 1/16 of an inch of a turn. And now when I just kind of keep my thumb over it so it doesn't fall out and I shake it, it'll come out. But if I'm holding it here, it does not let the yarn move. But when I shake it, the quarter will come down. See? And it's my understanding that that is the correct tension for this particular Singer, my 503A, and I believe the 500 would want the same kind of tension on the bobbin when we put it into the machine here. Now the last thing I'm going to do before I go ahead and put this bobbin back in is I'm going to grab some sewing machine oil. It's really important to make sure all these parts are oiled regularly. So it doesn't take much. There's just a little rim here, and I am just going to go ahead and just drop one little drop on that rim. Just one drop. And then I'll bring the bobbin in. The groove here goes straight towards the back, and there's a slot that it kind of falls into, as well as a side groove that it sits into. And that allows everything to come into place here. And then we gotta just pick this thing up and move it over and pop, pop. Okay, that's all in. So we've got the thread in, that's like that. And I just pull my thread up like this, kind of across, so that I'm sure when this wheel spins that it's gonna grab that yarn and pull it up and in. Next, we're gonna grab this plate and we set it in here. And where this lever we have over here, let me back all the way up so you can see both of the motions I make as I do this. So you can see my left hand over here, my right hand will grab over here, and you do a half a click. You can kind of feel if the plate is lined up or not, because it'll kind of kink. There's a spring-loaded pressure in there. You can kind of tell. It kind of needs to find its home and go right into place. Okay, and there it is. And now that lever can be all the way down. This is seated nicely. And I'll pull my yarn across like that. Bring that up. Now I don't have my thread up here going through. There is plenty of information about all of that stuff up here, how to thread this. That would be a whole nother video, and that's not my concern. Today, I needed to get this bobbin cleaned, and I needed to get the proper tension set on it with that 1 ounce of weight. So right now, I think I'm done with what I needed to do here on this project, and I'm in a place where I'm real excited to get back to sewing up that snowmobile seat, because it snowed this last weekend, and I want a real nice, cushy, warm seat to sit on when I go rip around. Well, thanks for watching as I fix it for Josh's sake. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give me a thumbs up and maybe a subscription. I would love to know who's out there and who's doing what and what you're working on. Give me a comment and tell me what you think, or if you have other ways that you set up your sewing machines when you're sewing different seats and covers and things like that. Thank you much. Have a great day.